Hi again guys, and welcome to episode 19 of Global Contenders, the review series for Gran Turismo's selection of touring cars, fictional and also some real ones, some legendary ones in fact. And this particular pick is for another one of our fictional touring cars, and the majority of the touring cars on the game are fictional. And this particular model is one of a couple of fictional American touring cars based on muscle cars. We've already featured, of course, the Challenger SRT8 touring car, and now we have that car's arguably main rival, the Camaro touring car. Now, straight off the bat, this is a vehicle which doesn't get anywhere near as much respect and use as it deserves, because I have to say, this car is brilliant. Now, the road-going Camaro of this generation that's already on the game, all of the Camaros, in fact, for that matter, are really good track cars. Some more than others, of course, but they're all deceptively good. That is the case with the latest generation Camaro featured on the game as well. Now, the touring car does what some other touring cars do, such as the Evo, which we mentioned in the last episode, and that is, it takes what the car's already good at and takes it to the next level. Now, the Camaro already has deceptively good handling, a very high amount of power. It doesn't weigh a ridiculous amount, given how large the car is, and overall the drivability and performance that it has, especially around a track, is very good. What this touring car does is basically improves all of those things. Now, in terms of straight line performance, of course, the top speed is not quite as high, because you do have more downforce, etc. Around the track, though, it is even better. Now, the engine on this particular model is, as you'd probably assume, the same spec as the road car in terms of size, a 6.2 litre V8 front engine rear-wheel drive, and like the road-going version, it puts out some big numbers. Now, this particular model has 731 horsepower, 642 foot-pounds of torque, and only weighs 1,210 kilos, which is even better than the road car. Now, that is, of course, heavier than many of the other touring cars in the game, but at the same time, for a car so big, that's not bad at all. And the fact that it has that much power is actually deceptively good, because 731 horsepower may not necessarily sound like a huge amount on Gran Turismo, but if you think about it, there are actually very few touring cars with that kind of power, and especially with that kind of torque. Now, the fact that it only weighs 1,210 kilos, which is heavier than some but still not bad at all, means that the horsepower per tonne on this particular model is a very respectable 604, and the PP, when fully tuned, is pretty high, 631. That's almost as high as some of the DTM machines, and in some cases that's higher than some of them. Now, one of the great things about the fictional cars in general is the price. They're not real vehicles, and Polyphony knows that people don't want to spend that kind of money on cars which aren't as legendary, in many cases aren't legendary at all, in comparison to cars which are legends, like your Alfa 155, your Mercedes CLK, your Calibra, etc. So the ones that are fictional do tend to be a little bit cheaper, and sometimes a lot cheaper. That is the case with this model. This particular car costs 177,000 credits, and that, I think, is a brilliant price. Because although that's not the cheapest of touring cars, when you consider what you get for that price in terms of sheer numbers, it can outdo pretty much anything else at that level. So, for value for money, I would say that this car is, on paper at least, very good. The question is, of course, though, can it translate those impressive numbers into actual usable performance, and is it competitive enough to actually use regularly? Well, yes, I would say it is. In fact, I would say that this is a better touring car than the Challenger. The Challenger looks more impressive, and in fact kind of looks almost like a NASCAR. This car doesn't look as flashy, but what it doesn't have in looks, it makes up for in ability, because this car is superb around the track. In fact, I would go so far as to say that this is one of the best handling cars of this entire series. It has superb handling, it does not feel anywhere near as much heavier than many other touring cars as it actually is, roughly 200 kilos more than your average DTM car. It just doesn't feel that heavy, and it doesn't feel that big either. The Camaro is a very large car, and it handles itself remarkably well for such a big vehicle. The horsepower, although it doesn't translate into speed on this particular model flat out, that is, it doesn't on the road version either. The road-going Camaro SS of this generation just doesn't have a particularly good top speed on Gran Turismo, and neither does the Challenger, which is a shame, but that's the way it is. They both do around 240-ish. The touring car, yes, is slower than that, but when are you actually going to use 240 miles per hour in your average touring car? Yeah, there are some tracks where you'll need that, but not many. Most people don't race on those kind of tracks with touring cars, so this car has more than enough speed for most tracks, if not all tracks, that you'll actually race it on. The acceleration is very strong, thanks to the huge torque and power, and the engine is just wonderfully lazy. You don't have to put any effort in to get a huge amount of torque down to the road. It's an easy car to drive. It doesn't even require working that hard. It just flows through the corners beautifully. And the huge power and torque mean that the straights are a doddle. This car will absolutely demolish most other touring cars on the straights. So overall, for 177 grand, this car certainly is underappreciated, but if you haven't tried it and you are a fan of touring car racing, or just need a good underappreciated race car in general, then you may want to try out this one, because it's very good. It may not be flashy, but it just gets the job done. But that's it overall for this particular episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.